our life.
It's a miserable kind of life in this weather, Davy. What do you like about it?
Well, just what we're used to, you know.
Have you ever lived in a house?
Yes.
How did you like it?
I didn't like it.
Why not?
Well, we wouldn't make the houses.
Years of living on the fringes of society have made the menfolk shy of recognition. They live unlawful lives, hedged about with restriction and the constant threat of summary arrest and eviction. Even the campfire can provoke public complaint.
How long do you think this site will last?
Oh, God knows. A couple of weeks, maybe more. Maybe a month.
And then you have to move on.
And then we'll have to move on again.
How's your copper getting on?
Oh, it's all right. Wish I'd got plenty more. You got 2 ricks there? Yeah.
Their winter work is 20th century scavenging, picking away around the fringes of the settlements, scratching a living by turning over yet again the metal refuse of a wasteful consumer society. Most of our scrap metal merchants today are descended from the travellers. Like cavalry that turned into tanks, scrap metal has taken over from the traditional preoccupation of the traveller, ponies. There aren't many gypsy ponies left now, and even fewer pony dealers. Some, like Charlie Douglas, keep them out of sentiment more than anything else. But even though Charlie Douglas is off the road now and settled in a house, he still retains a pride of ancestry that pricks him to campaign for all the unknown hundreds he'd left behind. He's now become the traveller's spokesman, associate member of a committee dedicated to arouse society's concern about these social outcasts. They met last week in Glasgow to plan their tactics. James Davidson, Liberal MP for Aberdeenshire West, who's been prodding the government in Parliament. Charlie Douglas himself, traveller turned contractor. And Helen Fullerton, assistant lecturer in chemistry at Glasgow University.
They may not be warned to be off, but the police will come. The thing is that travellers have no civil rights and human rights. They can't go to their MP because they have no MP. They can't go to their local councillor because he'll say, you don't belong to my area. They're a voice crying in the wilderness, as they'll put it to you themselves, and a voice that isn't heard. And they depend on people like ourselves taking up their cause.
Well, I think there are certain practical things we could do. I would suggest that you send out a circular to the local authorities, something on the lines of this draft I brought along, to try and find out exactly what the problem is in the areas and get some idea of the cost that is involved at the moment in shifting people on, to try and convince them that they'd be much better to provide spending their time and money moving travellers on from site to site the whole time. Then I myself will try and form a small all-party liaison committee in the House of Commons. I don't think any difficulty about this. It's a completely non-party matter, and you've got response from members of all parties on this. I think it should be quite easy. And this other point that you raised, Mr. Douglas, yes, this business of where people actually belong. I think I might try and frame a parliamentary question on this, the actual registration of travellers in a particular place, so that at least they are the responsibility of somebody, a local authority, pushing you on and saying, you're not ours, move on.
Their dogs, the lurchers, symbolise as nothing else the essence of their way of life. Lean and wiry animals, crossbred offspring of the greyhound and the collie, used to running down forbiddance. All the contradictions of their state are here. The curious elegance, the echo of a lost freedom, the bruised romance of a way of life that's now degenerate, distrusted by a society long resentful of them. In England, local authorities will soon be bound by law to provide for them a minimum of civilised amenities. In Scotland, only a handful of authorities like Perthshire are planning settled campsites to accommodate them for the winter. There's no law to compel them. But today, the ultimate stark reality for this collection of travellers is a place like Almond Bank just outside the city of Perth, where the travelling has ground to a final halt, bogged down in a limbo of mud and squalor and rejection.
Well, on television, I reckon you
or quite often you present one side of the picture, see the other. And I should think up here just now, you're probably going to romanticize these thinkers and give us here nothing of the other side at all. And there is, some of them are the dirtiest people you can meet.
Goes, first thing they do is hop over the wall and into the nearest grain field and do their necessary there. When eventually they do pull out, it's just a scene of filth.
And this encampment we're going to have, as I understand it, there are hundreds of them waiting poised to descend on us. And it's all very well saying they must have somewhere, but the old story, why should they be in our backyard?
Do you look on yourselves as travellers now, Mrs. McGregor?
Yes.
You're still travellers?
Yes.
But you haven't moved from here?
No. This last 3 years.
Now, how can you be travellers if you don't travel?
Well, we've always travelled, till now anyway.
Do you want to settle down now?
Yes. I meant to say we're getting at an age now that we're not fit to travel. We've no transport to travel.
And I can't leave Perth because I've got to attend the doctor who's weeks.
But other travellers that I've talked to are horrified at the thought of having to settle in a house. They feel the house is a prison.
No, sir, I would love a house. The rest of my life now. Settle down.
Why do you want to go off the road, Mr. McGregor?
Well, there's no camping now. We can't leave here and go there and camp. Sorry. One time you could do. Any farmer, any estate, were well known, were honest, in this Perthshire district, you know. We could come anywhere. And then there was a job. We got it. And the people were well known with the people, you see. Well equipped.
In a site like this, is there any organisation? Do you run it by a committee or anything like that?
No. Everyone pleases himself. Every man is his own family, and he's the boss there.
What happens if there's a dispute on the site?
Well, I'm going to get the best of it.
I've never had any carry on down here.
But there's not much that. Of course, there may be a bit drink and that.
Some of them.
But there's hardly any quarrel or fight. And then the police never bother, except they're anything stolen, you know what I mean? They always come. If there's any stealing or any kind, it's here they come.
It's here they come.
Same as the
This
rest.
site is in a terrible mess.
It
really is filthy.
Yes,
It's filthy, yes. It's not healthy, sir.
Who makes it filthy?
Well, it's yourself walking up and down, you see. Not a sandy soil, you know, like a more clay. So that's why the water isn't sinking. And then the surface of the almond is not leaving it dry. You see, it's always down.
It's right below. The water comes
then
in those.
when the tea is large, instead of the almond flooding down, the tea comes back up. It floods right into
This
the
bit here, this bit here fills the
This
water.
here fills up a water.
Did you build this house yourself?
Yes, myself and one of my sons.
How long did it take you?
Ah, well, it depends on getting the wood, you see. I get a chance to someone to take the slabs from the sawmill, or old boards. And then we get some wood at the Perth at a joinery. And nails, we buy nails, and then we just, when we're kind of idle, we just, maybe it's in a good weather, start.
Is it weatherproof?
Yes, it's weatherproof.
Well, there's no water
What's it
comes
like to live in, Mrs. McGregor?
Fine, thank you.
Well, it's better than the camp, because
Yeah,
it's not
that's
so warm as the camp, man. That's a far warmer thing
I
than
want a
the
place
hut.
with that hut is, that camp.
The tarpaulin tent?
Yes. That's far.
What do you live off?
Well, I get off of national security. I'm retired now. I don't work. I've been under a doctor. I had a car accident up there. So had feet. So we're under the doctor.
They've been a part of this country for hundreds of years, and yet they're a group of people with no civil rights in this country, and in fact no human rights, because they don't exist in the eyes of the local authority.